Hello and welcome back. And that's right, if you've come to this video, chances are you're doing it because you're curious about this thing from Minisforum, the MGA1, an eGPU, or more, I would argue, a docking station with a graphics card inside. This arrives with a 7600 AMD Radeon 8GB VRAM graphics card inside a docking station, which also features three 8K HDMIs, three 10GB USBs. It has a 65-watt USB-C output, which unfortunately only runs on old-style USB 5 gig, but it also features this neat little connection here, known as Oculink. Oculink is something we're finding ourselves talking more about here on the channel as we talk more about small, portable, power-efficient workstations and little tiny mini PCs, which then open the door to being scaled up extraordinary thanks to an output that arguably gives you more than Thunderbolt. Now, this device rocking out at around the 500 nicker mark, there's a few promos out there, is the whole kit and caboodle. It's plug and play from what I could see. I tested it on the Minisforum MGA1. I've also tested it on the Ustar GEM10. And although you are going to need to connect it via Oculink because you can't use a Thunderbolt output, I'm going to talk later on about ways and means in which you can connect it with pretty much any mini PC right now. Oculink, although it provides a greater degree of bandwidth and performance than USB 4 and Thunderbolt 4, it's not exactly commonplace. And although it is occurring in more devices as we watch technology roll from 2024 to 2025, there isn't exactly loads out there. Indeed, if you go to Oculink.net's website, there's only about 7 laptops they list. There's about 10 mini PCs, and there's some portable gaming type machines. I think there's about 5, 6, maybe even 7. And of course, those are just 2024 devices. There are some older ones, and no doubt some on the horizon. But if you compare that against USB 4 and Thunderbolt 4 connected devices in portable and desktop form, it is outnumbered likely 5 to 10 to 1. So why Oculink? Well, Oculink, for a start, provides a greater degree of bandwidth. Thunderbolt 4 and USB 4 provide 40 gigabits per second. It was basically a revisit of Thunderbolt 3 with some bells and whistles. But when you compare that to Oculink, which takes advantage of Gen 4x4 architecture, and by the way, that is becoming scalable, this and the Oculink 4i that it arrives with will give you 8 gigabytes per second bandwidth there. Actually listed at 64 gigabits per second, keeping in mind a lot of the drag factor as well. And again, depending on the architecture you've got committed on your machine towards the Oculink port that it features, that is a scale up of nearly double of what you've seen in USB 4 and Thunderbolt 4. Yes, it's a caveman comparison, but it is true. And the result of that is systems like this, like the GEM10 and 20 from Ustar, which have an Oculink port there, allow you substantial upgrades to be connected to that system externally. So if you choose to, you can have a system like this in your studio, nice low-ish noise system that allows you, when needed, to plug in something beefy. Also, it's worth touching on, this is very portable for a large graphical boost to your system. Now, when I say portability, I'm not going to say it weighs nothing. It weighs a decent few kilos to the hand there. But I will say that this system rocking out with an internal 240-watt PSU that's powering the graphics card and the cooling system internally is pretty impressive indeed. In fact, when we had it up and running, the noise level was overshadowed by the mini PC that I connected to do that, MSA1. The same went for when I used that Ustar system there. They've done a very good job of efficient cooling with ventilation on practically every side. Now, I've already mentioned that it is plug and play. You do need to have it connected from a cold boot. When I tried to connect it to the system on a powered on, because of the PCIe architecture, Oculink, although it appears plug and play, will not allow that card to be seen because of PCIe architecture. When it was connected, the performance improvements were immediate, both in DiskMark and in Furtest. Both of them, when it was running, gave me very clear performance improvements throughout the course of my testing. I didn't do any gamer performance testing, one, because there are other videos more focused on gaming, but mainly because I looked at this in terms of as a video editor, someone who needs to have a modest portable setup, but when they are stationary, want to be able to pull something out the back quite beefy. Now that 7600M graphics card there, I would argue is laptop scale. It's a little higher than what you'd get in most average gamer laptops at under $1,000, but it allows you to leverage the price point of graphics and power draw away from the central machine that you are connecting to there. Also, the power draw from that graphics card, that 7600M XT, was between 90 and 110 watts, and it is a GPU card that is rated at 120 watt TDP there. So the power draw was fairly predictable, but it was the idea that if I wanted to, it was only when I needed it I could do that draw. And also, thanks to Windows 11 allowing you to choose the graphical adapter that you assign to different applications, that meant that I didn't always have it in utilization, and when it was in idle, it went really quite fantastically low, straight the way down to non-utilization there, because it was just based on if you assign its utilization, it will draw power. And you know as well as I do that eGPUs or even docking stations that have graphics card or PCIe scalability are not exactly new, and if you aren't running a desktop system that has PCIe slots for your graphics card and you're running a mini PC, there are other ways to get the job done. One of the most common, and one that we talked about on the platform before, is things like this. This is an M.2 4x4 to PCIe times physical 16, but realistically times 4 speed output there. This would allow you to just connect into one of your M.2 slots there and add a graphics card. But you're limited in most cases for an adapter like this to graphics cards that do not require additional power, because there is no means to supply power easily. There are other external M.2 to PCIe traditional adapters that have an additional power output, but factoring those in to the output on your mini PC is difficult. This, on the other hand, allows you to factor it all in easily with that internal Mickey Mouse plug there and everything being handled via the Oculink at 64 gigabits per second there. What about for you users that are trying to find something in the middle of those two options? You're looking at this device, loving the idea of genuine plug-play portability in adding a decent boost to your graphical capabilities, but you don't want to have to dick around with extra power. Well, you do have options where, although it does need Oculink to Oculink, there are adapters for as little as $5 or $10 that allow you, much like this one, to instead of adding M.2 Gen 4x4 slot to a PCIe, you can get an M.2 4x4 to Oculink 4i connection again for about $5 to $10, and that allows you to attach on your mini PC that has a Gen 4. I wouldn't really recommend using it on a Gen 3 M.2 slot here, like this B-Link here. This is around $300. This has got a i5 12th generation 10-core processor. It allows you to add that Oculink port to your system and filter out towards this thing right here. Now, again, convenience-wise, I know there are going to be a number of you that have got USB 4 and Thunderbolt 4 systems, particularly laptops as well and Ultrabooks, who are going to have seen the benefit of erring towards a USB connection there. And I get it. I really, really do. That's why graphics cards on Thunderbolts exist. But we can't overlook the extra bandwidth afforded to this, and then don't overlook the fact this is a docking station. It has the output there for your 888K monitors. It has the output now is HDMI 2.1 and DisplayPort 2.0, two of them there, and also your USB. It allows you for a docking area with graphics for you to come down to, start working, whether it is your video editing, whether it is your gaming, in fact, working on it, and then taking your portable little device with you where it's not going to need that additional power or will suffer from the power drain. What about in the world of NAS? There's going to be those of you that follow this channel that will wonder, where does this fit into the world of NAS? Well, at the moment, testing is still ongoing. Notwithstanding that I've already ordered the M.2 to Oculink adapter, which should be with us in the next day or so for the follow-up video. On top of that, I've tried to connect it to that do start with different operating systems. And I'll tell you right now, Unraid wouldn't give me the time of day. It would not be seen. TrueNAS, although I could see it, I could never harness it and assign it, but Proxmox, it appeared just like any other PCIe device, which was music to my ears. That's where we're going to go into the further testing with this alongside the utilization of that M.2 adapter, just to see how variable the utilization of something like this is going to be outside of a dedicated Oculink mini PC. Is this thing worth about the 500 nicker price point? Well, that depends on the flexibility of your setup. Perhaps you are running a system where you need at times a high-powered, rather static system that has all that power under the bonnet when needed, but you also want to be able to flick out of that to low power utilization or more portable situations when needed. For that kind of user, there's a huge amount of appeal there. Also, the fact that there are ways and means to get around the hard-locked Oculink connection is going to be appealing to some of you. That said, given that Oculink is only really available on a comparatively small number of devices right now, that is going to be a deciding factor for most of you. When I did the testing using the MSA1, I did it because it had the Oculink there on board. If it didn't have the Oculink on board, I probably wouldn't have chosen to use that device. It's a great little mini PC, but I still prefer the MS01, which doesn't have Oculink. It's got 10GBE and it's got USB 4, but it doesn't have that. I would need to use some of the adapters that I discussed earlier on, but we can't overlook the fact that for its convenience and also thanks to moderately priced adapters working in the middle, there's every possibility that you are running right now a small $200 mini PC that happens to have a Gen 4 M2 NVMe slot going begging that you could now slap on a graphics card conveniently. And in that setup, there is certain appeal there to turn modest mini PCs into powerhouse gamer or video editing machines. Is it top tier? No, but it's going to open the doors to the mid tier at the easiest fashion and modulate the price for your setup and for the hardware you're going to go for. And for that user, it's definitely a good deal. But stay tuned for the follow-up video on this where we're going to dig a little deeper beyond some of our simple benchmarking tools there and find out more about its utilization in Proxmox with VMs, but also about connecting it to non-Oculink systems and just how good that's going to be. Stay tuned for that. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. There's links in the description to get hold of one of these for yourself. So if you are going to get one and you found the video helpful, please use those links and stay tuned for the follow-up video. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.